Hi, I'm Pearl Moonsamy, and I'm a human at JGF.
Welcome to the Humans of JGF, a JGF holiday special highlighting the brilliant minds behind our vision. And today we have a special guest. We have the person where the money resides, where the money is at. The GPS has been located between, and we have Pearl in the house. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Matavo. And like you said it, the money is here.
I mean, where the money resides, where the money resides. Good to have you. Pearl, do tell us, where are you from?
Right, so it's a three-part story.
Mm-hmm.
So first part, born in Durban.
Okay.
Second part, moved to Johannesburg when I was 6 years old.
Right.
And lived there for most of my life. 4 months ago, decided to move to Cape Town.
4 months ago. Curious, what was the motivation behind that?
Oh, I wanted a change of lifestyle, change of scenery. I wanted to increase my life expectancy.
What are you saying about Joe Burgers when I'm Pearl?
You go too fast and you end up in the ground too soon.
Oh my goodness gracious. Jeremy, when describing you, he says that you have a wicked sense of humor, and we're not even 5 minutes in, Pearl, and you are spitting bars already.
I love him. He said I got a wicked sense of humor.
Yeah.
My son says it's worse than dad jokes. It's called mum jokes.
Oh, heck.
Yeah.
Tick. Pearl, do tell us, right? You are part of the financial business unit at JGF. I mean, at face value, someone will just say, well, you just deal with all the money, right? Give us an overview of what it entails to undertake the job that you do.
Right. So I'm going to liken it to let's run a race, a relay race. And in this relay race, we've got all the participants helping each other out along the race. Each hand passes to the other. And you've got your different divisions for that I would liken to each member of that race, in that relay race. And I'm the baton that gets passed between each person in that race. And that's what I see my role in finance business partnering as. I'm the strategic element that assists business to reach their end goal. Because if that baton drops, you're disqualified from the race, you're out. Or you're either grappling to get it back. Because without the baton, you're not going anywhere. I think that's what they call it, right? A baton.
Some say a baton.
Okay, a baton. And that's exactly how I position myself when I'm thinking about my role as a finance business partner. I support each and every division and each so that you can achieve what you need to do strategically so that you can meet the business vision and objectives at the end of the day.
How does that analogy, I find it a brilliant, simple, effective analogy, influence your attitude, your approach to the day-to-day operations of your portfolio?
For me, very important is how I influence is through learning. And it's not just learning, but what do you do with that learning? And for me, it's pointless me taking all my knowledge to the grave with me. It's so important for me to pass that knowledge on. So while I might not know everything, and while I might not be an expert, for me what's important is what I know, I need to let the next person know, because that's what business is about. That's how I support you and use you. That's how I learn from you.
I think through this experience, these otherwise technical, quote unquote, job units within the organization have been so brilliantly humanized by people who hold them. Pietro was speaking about how engineering, her heart and soul just beats when she speaks about it. And when you're speaking about finance, you're not really speaking about the rands and cents, but you're speaking about the ethic and the emotion behind the rands and cents. Do tell us, Pearl, because we are in a teaching fellowship, right? what is your earliest memory of being at school?
Oh my gosh. So I told you about part one of my where I'm from.
Yes.
And so if you can think of a nerd and a teacher's pet, that's what I was in school.
The irritating kind?
Yeah, the kind that when the whole class got up to leave because they didn't do their homework, I was the only one sitting there.
Were you the one that would tell on Matabo who didn't do the homework?
No, I wasn't so bad. I wasn't
then
like
you my girl.
that. Yeah, but I made sure I covered my ass.
Okay.
Oops, I'm not supposed to say that, am I?
I'm not entirely sure, but let's roll with it.
Right. So let me take you back to starting school, and before we left to Johannesburg, and I was in grade, as they call it, grade R. I think we used to call it preschool back then.
Yes.
Back in my day.
Now they're calling it pre-prep.
Yes. So okay, too many terms to keep up with.
Yeah.
And what I can remember is I was such a teacher's pet, and I was likened by all the teachers in the school that when we were leaving Durban for Johannesburg, my teacher came home and asked my mum if she could adopt me.
I mean, ironically or
No, really.
Seriously?
Really, she didn't want me to leave.
Okay.
That is my earliest childhood memory of school.
That is such a unique memory. I'm just thinking to myself, are our candidate fellows going to be creepy teachers who go to people's houses asking for their children? You hope not.
And my mom was like, no.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. But it speaks to how your approach to your work even left an indelible mark with your teachers, to the extent that I could imagine for a teacher to really take that step of going to someone's house and say, hey, your child is kind of my child now. Can I keep her? Speaks about how you made them feel in their practice. I mean, was it your intention to make your teachers feel comfortable, or was it a thing of, Pearl, just do your homework, do what you're supposed to do, and let's just, yeah.
I think I'm a people pleaser.
Okay.
I think I am comfortable when I know that you are happy.
Okay. All right. There's a lot to unpack there.
Oh gosh.
But because we are not on Dr. Phil, or we on Ian La Save My Life, we will swiftly move to the next question.
Keep going.
Which is, who is your favorite teacher?
Oh wow. Let's think about that one. You know, this is going to sound odd, but I think I learn more from all the people around me, my husband and my children, my mom and my grandparents. They are the biggest teachers in my life. Because I think you don't stop learning unless you choose not to absorb anymore.
Yeah.
And I think I'm always learning. I mean, I was telling my gran the other day about information about, history, and she's like, no, hell no, lady. Let me teach you something about what happened back then.
Yes.
I learn from everybody around me.
I mean, as a program officer, a lot of our work is to coach our candidate fellows, and we use a praxis, a particular kind of skill set where we extrapolate your strengths, right? And from how you're speaking, I'm sure one of your strengths is being a learner, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And what lessons have you learned, for instance, from your husband?
So one thing my husband always tells me is when I'm busy doing something and I can never get it right, he's like, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and trying to get a different result. He's like, change what you're doing and your outcome will be different.
Yeah. And how do you feel knowing that you have the biggest learners, or not the biggest learners, but the biggest lessons around you in the form of the people that you love?
So one thing, you can act as if you're the mom and you know everything, and then your children can't tell you anything, which I do try, but they've got such big mouths. Or you can absorb and learn and change.
Yeah.
And very important is consistency.
Yeah.
Is be consistent in how you're willing to learn and how you take information and criticism.
Sure. Sure, that's a lesson in itself. And now, Pearl, you are at JGF. How did you hear about this organization?
So I think I found JGF before JGF found me.
Okay.
And why I'm saying that is I didn't apply for a role at JGF. I applied for a role at Alan and Jill Gray Philanthropy Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And as a means of applying for that role, I inherited, like Alindra said as well, I inherited JGF as one of my supporting entities. But interesting enough, in my interview, I had to do a few technical submissions. And one of them was a reserves policy for JGF. And when I was onboarded, one of my first board meetings was presenting a reserves policy. And I looked at this, I'm like, is this not my reserves policy that I did in my interview?
Yes.
So that's where I come from. That's my first introduction to JGF. They used me.
They used you and you found a place within the organization. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, I believe that each individual within the organization has different faces and phases which have contributed to the people that we now get to experience. So prior to Pearl being part of the finance business unit at JGF, what were the kinds of things that Pearl found herself in, career-wise, just as a person, that influence the individual that we get to experience in her full bounty today?
So for the last 14 years of my life, I spent in a big corporate company, a globally recognized corporate company. And this is where I grew up as a finance person. So being exposed to, in a big corporate company, you get to move around through various financial divisions.
Yeah.
So you're not stuck in one spot for 14 years. You could be if you're the person who doesn't like change. I like change.
Yeah.
So I tried everything. And I got to the point where finance operations wasn't for me, because that's where I was, and I wanted to do business partnering. And that was out of my realm, because if you can imagine this introverted finance person who now wants to go and partner with business, oh wow, seriously? So I took the leap of faith and I joined the business partnering division. This gave me a whole new insight into what finance is and what finance does and where finance takes the business. And I loved it. And but after 14 years of being in corporate, I needed a change because I wasn't adding value anymore.
Yeah.
I wasn't learning anything new. I knew my work inside out. I could do it with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
I wanted to stretch myself, and that's how I came out of where I was to where I am.
And what has surprised you the most about working with JGF?
So I think I said this to you when we last met at the breakfast event.
Yes.
Is that I was a person that was always focused on a target, at a bottom line, at a number. At JGF, my perspective has changed. I'm now focused on a person, an individual, who we're developing and how we're impacting lives. It's a completely different perspective for me and a completely different mind change.
Yeah. And what about our candidate fellows? Because our candidate fellows are the North Star of our organization. We do the work that we do to better capacitate them in their pursuit of transforming and adding value to the education system in South Africa. What about our candidate fellows to you reassures you that the South African classroom is in safe hands?
Two things. One, you take for granted how educated our teachers actually are and the qualifications they actually hold behind them. You think this teacher, they're doing a teaching job, They're reading out of a book and telling me what's in a book, but they're so educated. And two, they're doing what they love.
Yeah.
What could be better than that?
Yeah. And that's the quality of individuals that we have in our organization. Now, after you, Pearl, we have Joanna and we have Rebecca, who are going to be on the hot seat. Do share with us your fondest memories of them or with them.
Oh, absolutely. So, like I said, I'm 4 months old at JGF. So I would have started my interactions with Jana and Rebecca about 4 months ago. I think they must have both been equally nervous when they got emails from me saying I'd like to meet with them. Can you imagine the terror that they must have gone through? I think from my perspective, it's very important to collaborate with these two people in their different roles.
Yeah.
Rebecca, amazing work. She's what I call the proper Indian in JGF.
What?
I mean, she gets the money from people that don't want to give her the money. And Joanna is your events person, and she's got everything under control. So, I mean, I've worked so well with these two lovely ladies because they just know they know their job and they're good at it.
Yeah.
And it makes my life easier.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Phil, for your time. You are a breath of fresh air. So put together. I wish everyone listening to this can see what I am looking at, right? To understand what it is that I mean. I mentioned to her that, oh my goodness, I envy how put together you are. And just like, would you trust me with your money if I wasn't organized? And I'm like, exactly. That's why you are here. That's why you do the work that you do. And we are so appreciative of your contribution, and we are so excited to walk with you and get to know you better. And girl, slip us a little coin or two. Don't be shy with that budget. Guys, I wish you could see her face right now.
My surname is not Gupta.
Okay, this is a good place to end the show. We don't have that kind of money to be, dragged up in these streets. Samula Lakakulupo, we really appreciate you. And to more glorious growth moments in our organization.
Thank you, Matabo.
Good people, you know the drill. It is Jake's Halval Fellowship on social media. Let us continue this conversation. And if you know that you are interested in contributing to the good work that we do, come. As Rihanna would say, pull up. Let's do the work in leaving an indelible mark in South Africa's education system. This is legacy work that we're doing, work that matters, work that counts. I am Matabo Tladi. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you on the other side of this. Goodbye.